now we're on to 03.7. So 03.7, yet again, it gives us a nice new figure. It says study figure 12, a sketch map showing features of coastal deposition. And it says, using figure 12 and your own knowledge, explain how different landforms may be created by the transport and deposition of sediment along the coast. And it gives us quite a bit of room to write a big paragraph there, okay? So that's an indicator of how much you need to write. Now, what I've done here is I've underlined some of the keywords from the question. So I've put explain because we need to actually explain how some different landforms are formed. So not just say what landforms we can see, we need to actually explain how they're formed. And it's also got transport and deposition that I've underlined. So transport and deposition because we're only looking at landforms that have been created by transport and deposition. We're not looking at landforms that have been formed due to erosion. So we're not looking at bays, we're not looking at caves, arches, stacks and stumps, we're only looking at landforms of transport and deposition. So what we need to do, we need to have a look at figure 12 and see what landforms we can see first. So we've got a spit here and a spit here, we've got a bar and we've got a beach, okay? So they're the landforms we're talking about. So in this question, what I would do is, because it's talking about transport and deposition of sediment, I'd start off by saying how material is transported and maybe talk about why it is deposited as well. So I'd probably say material is transported at the coast in these ways and it is deposited when waves lose energy, that sort of thing. Then I'd have a look at figure here, figure 12, and see what landforms I can see, as we've just done, and then I'd say what landforms you can see. And then I'd actually start to explain how these landforms are formed, okay? And what I've done is I've put some of this on a PowerPoint slide which might help you if you're doing some dirt work on this. So as I say, I'd start off by saying material at the coast is transported in three main ways and then tell me what they are. I'd say it's deposited when and tell me when deposition occurs. Then I'd say in figure 12 there is, and as we've just said, there are two spits, there's a beach and there's a bar, and they're the landforms of deposition. And then I'd say a spit is formed when, and just briefly tell me when a spit is formed. A bar is formed when, tell me how that's formed. And a beach is formed when, tell me like what it is and tell me how it's formed. And that should get you 6 marks in that question, okay? And what I've got for you is I've got a good answer to this question that I might just show you. So I've got a really good answer to this question, by no means perfect, but this answer here would probably get 5 or maybe even 6 in proper exam, okay? So this might help you when you do some dirt work on this. So this person said that material is transported by the sea in 4 different ways, and these are traction, saltation, suspension and solution. And it uses the material it carries to erode the coast, and when depositing it, it creates some certain landforms, and deposition does actually occur where waves lose energy. I'm going to ignore that a little bit there for now. It says beaches are found in bays when the waves slow down and deposit their load. And we've also got in the southwest and the northeast of the figure. So down here and down here we've got 2 spits, and it says these are deposits of sediment that extend off the land formed by longshore drift. I'd probably add that they form in places where the coastline changes direction. That's why they carry on going out to sea. And they've put that they extend eastward due to the southwest prevailing wind. And this is a really good use of the figure, because you can see here the direction of the prevailing wind, the most common wind direction, is in that direction. It's going towards the northeast. So if it's going towards the northeast, we say that it's a southwest prevailing wind, because you say the wind direction that it's actually coming from. So it's coming from over here, so it's coming from the southwest. So brilliant use of the figure would say that they extend eastward due to the southwest prevailing wind. And finally, when a spit reaches land at the other side, due to continued deposition, it becomes a bar. So that's what we've got over here. When a spit carries on going, reaches land at the other side, it forms a bar. And behind a bar, we often get water trapped behind it, and that's called a lagoon. So this person here has fully explained how lots of these different landforms are formed. They use the figure really well, and therefore, they'd probably get 5 or 6 in this question. One bit here that they include that I've just kind of crossed out. A lot of people did this actually. They started talking about how a bay was formed, and a bay is a landform of erosion. That's when you get some softer rock here, which erodes quicker than the hard rock either side, and you get a bay and 2 headlands. So that is a landform of erosion. So if the question was asking for landforms of erosion, it'd have been brilliant. But in this case, we're just going to ignore it. So that's why I've ignored that there. But all in all, the rest of the question, really good answer, worth 5 or 6, and that might help you do your dirt. And finally, we're on to the last question, 03.8. So yet again we get treated to a brand new figure, figure 13, as you can see here. And the last question says, evaluate the effectiveness of coastal management strategies to help protect the coastline, such as the one in figure 13. And that's worth 9 marks, and indication of the amount you need to write. To get near to 9 marks, you're going to at least have to cover that, maybe even write a bit extra. So that's a good indication of what you need to write. So, evaluate the effectiveness of coastal management strategies to help protect the coastline, such as the one in figure 13. So, we're looking at coastal management strategies, so I'd maybe underline that, so that's what we're talking about. And we're going to evaluate the effectiveness. So basically we need to say how effective they are, say how good they are. So what we're doing is we're talking about different strategies you can use and saying how good they are. And it does say, such as the one in figure 13. So that means you can use this one that they give you, so the groins that you can see here, but you don't necessarily have to, because it doesn't say you have to, it just says such as. So use it if you want, you don't have to. But as I say, what I would probably do for a question like this, I'd start off by saying how you can protect the coast. So tell me how you can actually protect the coast. What strategies can you use, such as rock armour, sea walls and groins, like you can see here. Then I'd say what's good and bad about them, because we're evaluating the effectiveness, we're saying how good they actually are. So what's good and bad about these ones? And then if you can, I would back this up with an example. Sometimes it might say using examples, sometimes it might not, but if you know one, I'd use one. So the key thing here is to try and support your points with some examples. You're not just going to randomly talk about what you know about Holderness Coast. You're going to use it if you can use it to back up your points. So you might say an example of coastal management is on the Holderness Coast where they did this, and this was successful, it wasn't successful because of this, okay? And finally, what I would do to get top marks is I would say overall, how effective do you think coastal management strategies are? Overall, is protecting the coast a really good thing to do, or is it not? Okay, so that's what I would do. And in my answer, I would pretty much follow those guidelines. I'd start off by saying some of the different strategies you can think of and how they actually work. I'd say what's good and bad about each one. So you might think about how expensive they are, how they look, what impact they might have further down the coast. And I'd use the example, so the Holderness Coast, so what have they done there, and has it been successful or not? And then overall, do you think that these strategies, do you think that strategies to protect the coast are effective or not? Okay, so to help you with that, if you want to, I've got a little example of someone who actually did an answer on this. So I've got typed up example of someone who probably got an 8 or a 9 out of 9 in this. And they said, coastal management strategies can be effective, though this varies from location to location. They say one of the ways you can preserve a beach is through the use of man-made defences, such as the groin shown in figure 13. And they said that while this is effective in preventing longshore drift by sort of building up the beach, so stopping the material going sideways down the beach, they're often detrimental to unprotected areas where wave power might be redirected, or perhaps more importantly, if you stop the sediment from moving along the beach, it won't go down the coast, and it won't protect the coast further down. And they're also expensive to build. So what this person has done is they've said one method using groins, how they work, and what's good and bad about them. Now they talk about another one. So natural coastal defences are less harmful, such as beach regeneration, dune creation, though they take a long time to implement and they need to be redone often. So that's another defence, and that's another positive and negative of it, okay? And they go on to add a little bit more. So an example of where coastal defences have been implemented is on the Holderness Coast. And they say in 1991, groins and rock armour were installed along a stretch of the coastline, and although effective, they cost 2 million. I know it's the coast, but anyway, they cost 2 million. So what they're saying is they were effective, but they cost £2 million. So they're talking about how effective they actually were. So this is quite good high-level writing here. And then it says it was also found to be harmful in other areas of the coast, both north and south of the defences, and the rate of erosion increased in some places further south as a result of the waves being redirected to these areas, and also because less sediment moved south, so therefore there was fewer beaches further south, so more erosion further south. And finally, they've made a good conclusion, which says that overall coastal defences have several positives and negatives which depend on the types used and where they're installed. So that would be a really good answer that got 8 or 9 marks. So if you can get one that looks similar to that, then that'd be really well done. So now I want to see you using the green pen and this video and the resources I've given you to add green pen to your test paper to make sure you would get full marks in all those short answer questions just by adding green pen to your test paper. Then I'd like to see you having a go at rewriting one of those long answer questions, probably the one that you did least well in, and I'd like you to rewrite it using the resources I've given you and make it really high quality and make it almost as if it would probably get full marks, okay? And that'll be a real good use of time case you get a similar question in the future. And that's all for now.